Hi, welcome to the channel. In today's video we're going to look at a sub £100 winter camping setup. Now, if you've already seen some of the videos on my channel, you know that I do a lot of camping with gear that costs less than £100 in total. So that means sleeping bag, sleep mat, sleep pillow, backpack and tent for all less than £100. So my cheapest camp so far I think was £34.98 for all of that gear. Now obviously the challenge is, in the summer, you can have really cheap sleeping bags, you don't need that much warmth and stuff. But in the winter, you need much better gear. So your sleep mat's got to have a decent R rating, your sleeping bag's got to have a good temperature rating. It just all becomes a bit more expensive and more difficult to find. So I've spent all summer on Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Gumtree, all the other kind of selling sites, trying to find gear that would be good enough to use all year round. And I think I've managed it. We'll go through the total setup now, and I'll give you the total price before we start, and then I'll give you the individual prices of the elements as we go through. But the total price is £96.76, so just under the £100 budget that I set myself. And I think this is some really good, solid gear for four-season use. But obviously let me know in the comments what you think, whether you would go out in this gear or not. Starting off, backpack. I've got a lot of backpacks that would come into the budget for this gear, but one I've chosen is the OEX Valo 7080. So the main reason I've chosen this bag, it is the biggest bag that I've got. £20, it was in really, really good condition from Facebook Marketplace. Still got its original unused rain cover. It's got plenty of space. You've got straps on top so you can get the tent externally as well. And I reckon you've got enough room for my basic winter gear, and then obviously cook set, down slippers, thermal layers, all the rest of the kind of stuff you take on a winter camp that you wouldn't need to take on a summer camp. So I've basically gone for the biggest bag. I might be able to squeeze this into my Regatta 65 litre bag, which is only £8 to save a bit of money. But no, I'm going to go with this bag just because it's the biggest and I should get everything in. One of the reasons you need a massive bag if you are camping in the winter on a budget is that the chances are, if you're looking at less than £100 all in, your sleeping bag is going to be pretty bulky to get into budget. And that's certainly the case here. The sleeping bag I went for is a Snugpak Sleeper Extreme. It is a big bulky bag. I think it weighs about 2 kilos, but I'll do a weight test and I'll whack it on screen now, the actual weight. It is bulky. It is heavy, but it's not, it's not completely mad. This should get in the bag with the other gear reasonably comfortably. It's obviously going to be bulky and heavier than any kind of summer gear I use, but it's got a comfort rating of -7, and its kind of lower transition end is -12. So for the kind of camping that you do in the UK, unless you're going up to like the very north of Scotland or somewhere in the Peak or Lake District or whatever, you should be fine at -7. But again, the proof is going to be in giving it a test. That pretty much is as far as it'll squeeze down. I haven't spent hours trying to do it, but that's pretty much how it squeezes down. And in terms of the sleeping bag itself, we'll get that out and have a look now quickly. Obviously, at this sort of money, I paid £30.36 off of eBay for this bag. So it is second-hand. So there is some sign of use on a couple of the logos and stuff, but the bag itself feels in perfect condition. There's no rips, there's no tears, all the zip works fine. It is a synthetic bag, which is partly why it's so bulky and heavy, but it seems like there's absolutely tons of filling in it. Really thick bag, feels quite warm. So I'm hoping it will do a good job, and it will keep me warm on a proper winter's camp. You can obviously cinch in the hood and stuff, that cinches in quite nicely, and it's got a really substantial hood as well, and quite a big, nice weighty foot box as well. So hopefully that will do me well. Next up is my sleep mat. Now this is another purchase from Facebook, and it is a Mountain Equipment Helium 3.8 sleep mat, with the 3.8 being the R rating. Now, it's not the most compact or lightest mat in the world. It's just your typical self-inflating mat. But I paid £25 from Facebook, and it was brand new with tags, never been used, absolutely perfect. £25 is a really good deal. The RRP is between like £80 and £90, so you can find a little bit cheaper than that online. But no, obviously decent brand, should be a decent bit of equipment. I've used this once so far on a coastal camp when it was fairly mild, but I had a really lightweight sleeping bag on, so I wanted to get some proper insulation from the ground. So let me know what you think about the R rating in the comments. Is 3.8 enough for proper winter camping? I'm not 100% convinced that it is, but it is the warmest budget sleep mat that I own and that I've found so far, so it's going to have to do. The next item is the cheapest item on the list. It's my Tesco cheap inflatable sleep pillow, which is £1.50. So it's not the most comfortable thing in the world. It's just your standard inflatable with a sort of flock surface. But I couldn't really stretch. I'm already at £96, so I couldn't really stretch a different pillow unless I changed backpacks. If I changed backpacks, I could have a slightly more comfortable pillow. But for this winter loadout, because I'm going to go for the biggest backpack possible, got to go for my cheapest inflatable sleep pillow. Not going to be a fantastic piece of kit, but chances are I'll be wearing a hoodie and hats and everything else, so that will help help improve the comfort of that. The last item, but definitely not the least, and probably the most important item on this, is which tent have I chosen to go with my winter loadout. Obviously, I had a lot to choose from. To fit it into budget, it had to be around the £20 mark or below. So I've got quite a few tents that do meet that criteria. But the one I've chosen is my Robert Saunders Space Packer Mark I tent. This is supposedly rated for mountains by Robert Saunders. If you use the Wayback Machine and go onto their website, this is one of the tents that they had rated as a mountain suitable tent. So not all of the tents I've got from Robert Saunders are rated in that way. So this one should be really strong, really robust. It has a single aluminium pole, but it's a really beast of a single pole. And the reason I've gone for this tent is that the way it pitches, you can peg it out really close to the ground. So obviously I've not got any tents with a proper snow skirt, so I've gone for the tent which has got the lowest possible pegging profile, which is this tent. So you can peg it really low to the ground, and you can also double peg it at each point as well to get it even closer to the ground. So there's no way there's going to be any snow bouncing underneath this tent and into the inner and stuff. It's completely secure for that. It's also a nice big tent, so for those winter camps when it's really dark early on, you've got plenty of space to move around to get comfortable and stuff. You've got two big porches, so cooking's going to be really nice and easy for it. And because you've got two porches either side of the tent, you can obviously pick the one where the wind is behind you and stuff, so you get a fairly sheltered experience as well. It's also got a completely solid inner tent as well, so it should be really good for warmth. And it is outer pitch first, so not all my tents are. Majority of the tents I've picked up on cheap have been inner pitch first. So this one, outer pitch first, really good if it's raining or the weather's really bad and stuff. You can just get the outer pitch, get your gear inside, and then you can put the inner up at your leisure then. So I've camped in this tent twice. It's really comfy. I love this tent. It could have been a fraction longer if I'm honest, so the only concern I've got in terms of winter camping is my head and feet touching the inner and pushing onto the outer and stuff and getting moisture ingress that way. That's the only thing with this tent. It is just an absolutely brilliant tent. The only thing I've not really done with it is test it out properly in bad weather. I've had two camps. One was a mountain summit camp, but there wasn't a prepper wind all night. So the only thing I got tested for was the masses of condensation on the fly sheet. But no, really good tent. Obviously, I've whacked in some clips of it out and about, so you can see what I'm talking about. You can see how low profile it pitches to the ground. But it's a nice, comfy, spacious tent. I'm hoping that the reputation of these tents, this manufacturer, and the rest of it, it'll still be fine, even though it's an old tent, possibly from the 1980s. So it's definitely got some age to it, but no, I'm pretty confident it'll be a good tent for winter. So what do you think of that setup? £96. It's so far the best that I could achieve, I think. I've spent a long time looking, and obviously now we're moving into winter time, there's less bargains around in terms of winter gear. So I'm not probably going to find anything else that I can add to it this winter period. But maybe next summer I can look at getting some better sleep mat, and maybe a different sleeping bag, one that's got a better warmth rating and it's not as heavy and stuff. But we'll have to wait and see. In terms of how good this gear is and how warm I am, I thought it would be useful to have a comparison with some better gear, so that if I'm cold in this gear, I can use some of the better gear just to work out where my natural kind of comfort rating is in terms of temperature and stuff, and how much warmer I'm going to be in better gear. So over the summer I did pick up another sleeping bag on Facebook from a ex-mountain leader, and it is a substantial piece of kit. It completely blows my budget. I think I paid 170 quid for it, which is an awful lot for a used sleeping bag, but it's only ever been used on 2 nights, and that was in Canada on he was doing a 2-day training thing where the first night you had to create your own ice house and sleep in it, and the second time you had to sleep in some kind of little cabin in the middle of nowhere. So this sleeping bag is a is a real bit of kit. It's absolutely huge. It's a Rab Summit 900, I think. So it's not like their Modern Ascent one. This is the ones that are previous to that. It's their proper mountain-rated monster sleeping bag. So it is an absolute beast of a down sleeping bag. Obviously, this is stored in its fluffy storage case so that it doesn't get the down doesn't get too crushed up and stuff. But yeah, this is an absolute beast of a sleeping bag. It's got various ratings of fill powers and stuff. The top is 850 power and the base is 725 power. It has a comfort rating of -26. So, you know, if I'm cold in this, then there's really no hope for me, because it is, you know, one of the warmest sleeping bags you can get, really, without going into full-on I'm climbing Everest mode, which is something I would never ever do. But it is just unbelievably thick. I mean, it is just an absolute beast of a sleeping bag. So I'm going to take this out for a camp at some point over winter on the coldest night possible. Obviously, I'll take my cheap kit out as well at some point. And I'll just take this out and just see how much more comfortable I would be using expensive gear. So I'm still going to have the same sleep mat and stuff, so it'll just be the sleeping bag really for comparison. Yeah, we'll see how warm the sleeping bag is. So we will see how well it packs down into its stuff sack as well. It does pack down much better than that. I've just done it roughly. So it packs down to a reasonable size, and I'll drop the weight in on the video now. I think it weighs just less than 2 kilos, which again for the temperature rating is pretty good, because you know this is one of the warmest sleeping bags you can get, really. So I'm quite looking forward to trying this out. Well, that's the budget loadout in the bag. So the sleeping bag does take up a huge amount of room in the bag. So I've got the sleep mat in the bottom compartment. There's plenty of space in there, so I'd stuff my thermals, down slippers, all that kind of stuff in there. And then up here I try and find space for all the cooking gear and other bits and pieces and stuff. So it still leaves the outside pockets, it leaves the top. So the top lid is quite squidged down because I've got the tent outside. So there's enough room to lift it up and put some more gear in there. So it should be absolutely fine. But yeah, the sleeping bag didn't seem that bulky when I had it in my hand, but actually when you try and cram it into even a 70 litre plus backpack, just takes up so much space. So yeah, if you like the video, do drop it a like. If you are new to the channel, then do subscribe. Check out my other budget videos as well. Check out my previous wild camps for less than £100. And like I said, I've gone from sort of, I think about £95 right the way down to less than £35 for a full camping setup. Obviously, it's much easier to achieve cheap camping gear in the summer and stuff. But I think this is a pretty solid setup for less than £100. But let me know what you think in the comments. And yeah, I can't wait to take this out when the weather gets a bit colder. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.